The endless darkness of the Atlantic swallows everything, leaving only the compressed groan of deep-sea pressure tightening around the void. A faint ROV light drifts across the Black Sea floor, revealing torn steel plates ripped apart as if something snapped them in the dead of night. Bent beams curve like frozen screams in the silence. People once believed the ocean always returns what it takes, but with USS Cyclops, it never did. The massive ship vanished without a final word. No distress call, no sign of a struggle, just disappeared into the open ocean. USS Cyclops, launched in 1910, was the largest coal-carrying vessel in the United States Navy, a steel giant built to feed the Atlantic Fleet. Stretching nearly 542 feet and weighing close to 20,000 tons, it was designed as a floating powerhouse, a ship expected to endure the worst the ocean could offer. 4 cavernous cargo holds, thick steel framing, and a massive triple expansion engine gave it a reputation almost mythic for its time, a vessel considered practically unsinkable by early 20th century standards. A crew of more than 300 filled its decks, officers, engineers, machinists, and sailors, whose daily routines kept the beating heart of the fleet alive. Cyclops was not just another ship on the naval register. It was a symbol of American industry, a pillar of wartime logistics, and the center of a mystery so vast that, more than a century later, the ocean still refuses to surrender its truth. In February of 1918, USS Cyclops departed Brazil, carrying an extraordinary and dangerous load, more than 10,000 tons of raw manganese ore, a dense, heavy cargo critical for steel production in the heart of World War I. The ship sat lower in the water than usual, her holds packed so tightly that several crew members noted in their journals, "Cyclops feels heavier than on any voyage before." She charted a course toward Baltimore and made a final stop in Barbados to take on supplies. But something about that last port call felt wrong. The sky was a dull, oppressive gray. The sea, though not violent, rolled with a strange, unsettled rhythm, and an unspoken tension drifted through the crew like cold fog. Captain Worley moved with unusual stiffness, his demeanor sharper, more withdrawn than normal. Some officers believed the ship was overloaded, others whispered concerns about the shifting weather, but none of them, not one sailor standing on that deck, could have imagined that these moments in Barbados would be the last time Cyclops was ever seen. On March 4th, 1918, USS Cyclops slipped away from Barbados and headed north into open water. From that moment forward, the world heard nothing. No position reports, no distress call, not a single line of radio traffic recorded by any ship along the route. For a Navy vessel, especially one carrying more than 300 souls, such silence was unthinkable. Experts would later call it the moment of absolute quiet, a blackout so sudden and complete that it defied every protocol of maritime communication. Even in catastrophe, a ship this size should have had seconds, minutes to send a coded SOS, a fragment of Morse, a single desperate pulse across the airwaves. But Cyclops never sent a thing, not a spark, not a syllable, nothing. It was as if the ship had been cut cleanly out of reality, removed in one sharp breath of the sea. Within hours, the Atlantic rolled on as if nothing had passed through its waters at all. And somewhere along that lonely stretch between the Caribbean and the American coastline, Cyclops simply ceased to exist. The most widely accepted theory is brutally simple. The ship broke apart. Pure manganese ore is unimaginably heavy. If the cargo shifted even once, a sudden roll in heavy seas, a deep trough between waves, the center of gravity could snap the ship's backbone like a rail under strain. In that scenario, it would begin with a long, wrenching metallic groan, The hull would arch unnaturally. Bulkheads would tear open in a chain reaction, one compartment flooding another in seconds. And if it happened in the dead of night, the crew would never have stood a chance. There would be no time to send a signal, no chance to launch lifeboats. Men would awaken to a ship already dying beneath their feet, pulled under by thousands of tons of collapsing steel and shifting ore. Within minutes, the ocean would claim everything. At depths stretching thousands of feet, the darkness becomes absolute. No light survives. No sound returns. The sea smothers every movement as if wiping away a footprint in sand, closing over the wreck so completely that it leaves no trace for the world above. In that cold, silent world, a sinking as violent as Cyclops would vanish as though it had never happened at all. When Cyclops disappeared, the US Navy initially treated it as a tragic accident, a wartime loss with an expected explanation somewhere out at sea. But days passed, then weeks, and not a single piece of evidence surfaced. No wreckage, no oil slick, no floating timber, life jackets, cargo crates, nothing that a sinking ship should leave behind. It was as if the Atlantic had swallowed the vessel whole and sealed the surface behind it. For the families of the more than 300 crewmen, the silence became a slow, grinding torment. Letters poured into the Navy Department month after month, parents, wives, children begging for updates, pleading for anything that resembled an answer. Each reply grew colder, shorter, more uncertain. As the years slipped by, hope thinned to a whisper. The name Cyclops became a wound that never closed, a reminder of how fragile even the strongest steel can be when set against the open ocean. In wartime America, the ship's disappearance felt like a ghost story with no ending, a puzzle with every piece missing, a question that stretched beyond a single generation. And more than a century later, the mystery still lingers, haunting the Navy's archives and the families who never learned what happened in those final hours at sea. How does a ship as massive as USS Cyclops vanish without leaving a single trace? It is the question that has haunted historians, sailors, and families for more than a century, a question that refuses to settle. Theory 1. Internal waves and underwater storms. Deep beneath the surface, hidden currents and towering internal waves can rise like invisible walls. These underwater giants, sometimes dozens of feet high, can twist a ship's hull from below, bending steel in ways the human eye never sees. A sudden strike from one of these forces could have snapped Cyclops apart before anyone on board understood what was happening. Theory 2. A manganese-hold explosion. 10,000 tons of dense ore, shifting and grinding in a steel chamber, can create tremendous friction. Some experts believe a localized hotspot could have ignited, causing a slow, smoldering fire deep within the holds, the kind that weakens a ship from the inside out until a single wave finishes the job. Theory 3. Captain Worley's controversial command. Rumors swirled around the captain's temperament long before the final voyage. Complaints from sailors, questions about discipline, whispers of erratic behavior, all of it fueled speculation that a human mistake may have played a part. An overloaded ship, a miscalculated route, a decision made at the wrong moment. Theory 4. The Bermuda Triangle. Cyclops sailed directly through what would later be called the Bermuda Triangle, a region infamous for its disappearances. While science offers no proof of the supernatural, the coincidence is impossible to ignore. For many, this is the detail that cements Cyclops as the Triangle's earliest and greatest mystery. Theory 5. An enemy in wartime. World War I raged across the Atlantic, and German U-boats hunted American ships relentlessly. There is no documented attack, no surviving log, no claim of responsibility, yet the possibility lingers. In a war defined by secrecy and stealth, an unrecorded strike remains within the realm of the possible. But each theory has cracks. Each explanation ultimately ends at the same dead end. And that is why the story of USS Cyclops endures. Its disappearance is not a puzzle waiting to be solved. It is a void, a silence, a shadow stretched across history, a mystery powerful enough to survive 100 years, because the ocean has chosen not to answer. A century after Cyclops disappeared, the search continued across thousands of square miles of open ocean. Advanced sonar systems swept the seafloor in long, methodical arcs, scanning ridges, trenches, and plains for anything that resembled a ship of her size. Eventually, several suspicious targets emerged: long, collapsed steel structures half buried in silt, their outlines softened by a century of rust, coral, and drifting sediment. Some plates fanned outward in a wide arc, the kind of pattern consistent with a hull that split violently in two. ROVs descended into the darkness, their dim golden beams cutting through clouds of silt to reveal twisted frames and corroded beams. A few of these curved supports matched the scale of Cyclops, but erosion had stripped them of all markings. No numbers, no plates, no bell, nothing that could offer certainty. What lay on the seabed was a grave without a name, deep, quiet, and nearly erased by time. Yet the discovery raised a chilling possibility. Cyclops may have finally been found, but the ocean, as always, gives back only what it chooses. Marine archaeologists believe that if the wreck of Cyclops still exists, it no longer resembles a ship at all. 100 years of salt, pressure, and deep ocean chemistry would have reduced carbon steel plates to brittle fragments. Welds would have ruptured. Frames would have folded and sunk into soft sediment, leaving only scattered shapes half claimed by the seafloor. Many experts argue that the wreck, if found, would stretch across an area spanning tens of kilometers. Not a single resting place, but a debris field so dispersed that positive identification becomes nearly impossible. They point to one clue above all others: the absolute radio silence. For a ship of this size, the only explanation for such total quiet is catastrophic collapse, a structural failure so sudden that no one had time to reach the transmitter. Geologists add another chilling possibility. The region where Cyclops vanished may contain hidden depressions and deep undersea ravines. In the right conditions, these natural traps can swallow a vessel whole, drawing it downward with mud, sand, and debris until nothing remains on the surface. In other words, the ship may not simply be lost. It may be buried, consumed by a part of the ocean designed to keep its secrets. If Cyclops truly rests on the ocean floor, experts believe her remains would no longer resemble a ship, but a landscape, a shattered field of steel, divided into 3 distinct zones. Zone 1, the bow. Here, the forward plates would be curled inward or outward like torn paper, bent by pressure far beyond human imagination. Bulkheads once rigid and orderly would appear ruptured, folded, or peeled away in jagged shapes, the clear signature of violent structural failure. Zone 2, the manganese hold. This is the heaviest and most unforgiving part of the ship. 10,000 tons of ore would have driven the entire midsection deep into the seafloor, burying it beneath layers of soft sediment. In this zone, the wreck might be invisible to the naked eye, entombed under meters of mud, silt, and shifting sand. Only sonar, not light, could reveal its ghostly outline.
The camera glides
Zone 3,
slowly along the torn
stern.
path of the Cyclops.
The aft section, home to engines, machinery, and steel frameworks, would likely show the clearest signs of the hull snapping in two. Warped beams, twisted shafts, and collapsed engine supports would stretch across the seabed like the ribs of a colossal creature long dead. None of these zones would remain intact. Not a single corridor, not a recognizable deck, just fragments, silent silhouettes, crushed by time, pressure, and the weight of the deep. In the deep ocean, time does not move. There is no sunrise, no tide, no passing of seasons, only a constant, unbroken darkness, pressing in from every direction. Down here, motion is almost a memory. Grains of silt drift slowly through the black water like ancient dust, settling on twisted metal that lies frozen in place. Steel plates, once alive with footsteps and voices, now rest as still as fossils. Their edges softened by corrosion, their shapes blurred by a century of silence. If any personal belongings remain, they are buried beneath layers of sediment thick as the weight of forgotten years. A shoe, a buckle, a fragment of wood, each one sealed in the cold, patient dark. They are not objects anymore, but messages from the final moments. Captured in the instant the world above slipped away. Cyclops is not merely a missing ship. It is an absence, a hollow space where history stopped mid-breath and never resumed. Here, at the bottom of the Atlantic, the past is not gone. It is suspended, preserved in darkness, held in a silence so complete that it becomes part of the ocean itself. The deep does not echo. It remembers. More than a century has passed, yet the mystery of USS Cyclops remains unbroken. No official answer, no final discovery, only questions suspended between history and the deep. But the ocean does not forget. Far below the surface, in the cold stillness where light never reaches, the bent remains of steel rest in their silent grave, quiet reminders that some stories were never meant to be recovered in full. Cyclops may have vanished from the world above, but it has never vanished from the memory of the sea. Its absence lingers like a whisper carried through the depths, a reminder that the Atlantic keeps its secrets with a patience far greater than our search for truth. And as with so many mysteries swallowed by waves and time, one thing is certain: the ocean always keeps the final chapter for itself.